Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Soranandana Brajana Ranjana Jasoranandana Brajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Soranandana Brajana Ranjana Jasoranandana Brajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamunatira vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhu Jakacharya Asita Srimad His Divine Grace to the HG Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnava ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Prem Sakho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki Jai Shiva Navanav ki Jai, Shrimaya Pranavdam ki Jai, Gangamai ki Jai, Jamunamai ki Jai, Tulsi Devi ki Jai, Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Swamaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, all glories some devotees, all glories some devotees, all glories some devotees, all glories Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning I read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 16, King Chitraketu meets the Supreme Lord. Text number 45. Ata Bhagavan Vayam Madhuna Tvad Avaloka Parimristhasaya Malaha Sura Drisina Yat Kasitam Thavakena Kateham Katham Anyata Bhavati. Is this an unusual? You do it, Divya.
Okay, give me the mic. Atta Bhagavan Vayam Aduna
Atta Bhagavan Vayam Aduna
Tvadavaloka Parimishta Sayamalaha Sododashinayat Katitam Tavakena Katamanyata Bhavati Atta Bhagavan Vayam Aduna Tvadavaloka Parimishta Sayamalaha Sododashinayat Katitam Tavakena Katamanyata Bhavati Atha Bhagavan Vayam Aduna Tvadavaloka Parimishta Sayamalaha Sododashinayat Katitam Tavakena Katamanyata Bhavati Atha Bhagavan
online. Atta, therefore, Bhagavan, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vayam, we, Adhuna, at the present moment, Tvat Avaloka, by seeing you, Parimishta, wiped away, Asiyamala, contaminated desires in the heart, Survasena, by the great sage of the demigods, Nārada, Yat, which, Katitam, spoken, Tavakena, who is your devotee, Katam, how, Anyata, otherwise, Bhavati, can it be? Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Therefore, my dear Lord, simply by seeing you has now wiped away all the contamination of sinful activities and their results of material attachment and lusty desires, which always filled my mind and the core of my heart. Whatever is predicted by the great sage Nārada Muni cannot be otherwise. In other words, I have obtained your audience as a result of being trained by Nārada Muni. Purport. This is the process of the perfect way. One must take lessons from authorities like Nārada, Vyāsa, and Asita, and follow their principles. Then one will be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even with one's own eyes. One only needs training. Atta Sri Krishna Nabhavad graham indriyai. Sevan mukhi jiva da swayameva spratyada. With our blunt eyes and other senses, we cannot perceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if we engage our senses in the service of the Lord, according to the instructions of the authorities, it will be possible to see Him. As soon as one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the sinful reactions in the core of one's heart are certainly vanquished. Om Jnanatamandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshrum Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukham Krutavacalang Pangam Manghayate Gurim Yet Kripataraham Bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Banchikapatibhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Bhavnevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gaura. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It is said that anyone who engages their mind, body, and words in the service of the Lord is liberated even within this very lifetime. This is the power of devotional service. And here it mentions that upon seeing the Lord, but you don't have to actually see the Lord to get purified. Just by thinking of the Lord also, we get purified. And therefore we have this process of purification in this age. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatranyata. In this age of Kali, the only way for purification is this chanting of Hare Krishna. And if we chant Hare Krishna in this age of Kali, we're not in Kali Yuga, we're in Satya Yuga. And if in Satya Yuga one is not serving Krishna, then he's not in Satya Yuga, he's in Kali Yuga. Yeah. So this is a great opportunity to get purified of the material contamination. But, as it's mentioned here, we can't do it on our own. We need help. We need help from the spiritual master. The spiritual master gives guidance on how to advance in Krishna consciousness. And here, this Chittaketu was very fortunate because he had guidance of Nārada Muni. And Nārada Muni, he's an extremely amazing devotee. I think he's in every canto of the Bhagavatam, right? Every canto. He's the only devotee that's in every canto. He's the spiritual master of Vyāsa, who is a literary incarnation of Krishna. And he is very merciful. There was a personality called Mrigari, the hunter, who would half kill animals. Wouldn't kill them all the way. He'd half kill them so they'd suffer. And Nārada Muni happened to be in the area, and he saw these animals half killed, suffering. And so he came along, he found Mrigari, and actually he had a little bit of culture, even in the hunter, a little respect. He offered respect to Nārada Muni. And Nārada Muni said, "Why are you half killing them? Well, you just kill them all the way and relieve them of the suffering." He said, "Well, this is the way I was trained by my father." He said, "Well, this is not good. You're going to get reactions. You're going to get reactions for this." He said, "Well, what should I do? You should give up your hunting." "Well, how will I maintain?" "Don't worry, I'll take care of you." And he had faith. He had this simple faith. in Nārada Muni. So he stopped his hunting. And he became saintly. And people heard that this regard, he stopped his hunting. He's become saintly. So people are coming and giving him things. That's what happens when you become a saint. People give donations, you know. Like Prabhupada got so much. You know, so much was given. Yashahamanugranami hirsi taddanam shanai. Prabhupada was, when he was in India, he had this business, and he was doing quite well. He had a huge factory, and gradually everything was taken away from him. And he would chant this verse, literally everything was taken away from him. And eventually he just had like a couple dhotis and a kurtars and just nothing. Krishna took everything away from him. But he was still writing, had this mission in front of him. So he was, although he was so poor, had nothing practically, he was the wealthiest person on the planet because he had this very strong, pure desire to give Krishna consciousness to others. And that he did in a very big way. And eventually, then Krishna gave him so much. He became a multi-millionaire, you know, with all that he had. So Krishna took everything away, and then he gave him so much. So Nārada Muni, now many people would consider him also poverty-stricken. He didn't have anything. He had nothing, didn't have a home, didn't have anything. But he's known as a transcendental spaceman. Travels all over the universe. Prabhupada even mentions in one purport, he even goes to hell to preach. Yeah, it's in the book that you're reading every morning. Yeah. One devotee asked Prabhupada, when you leave us, where are you going to go? And Prabhupada said, well, I'm thinking of going to hell to preach. So people are probably pretty receptive there, because people are suffering so much. You know, here in America, people aren't so receptive. You got, you know, good facility for sense gratification. So, you know, and also devotees they preach in New Zealand and places where they, you know, things are all right, and they'll be preaching. Devotees will be preaching. Yeah, this material world's a place of suffering. You know, and the person listening will, well, this person having a hard time there in life. You know. But generally, people are doing quite well in many places in this world, in first world countries. Imagine hell. So, also in heaven, things are so nice. Hell doesn't. So, the Earth planet's kind of like, you know, there's a good amount of suffering. There's some pleasure, but it's kind of like balanced a little bit. So, but it's here in San Diego, things are kind of all right. So it's a little hard to preach and find people that are receptive to Krishna consciousness. But Srila Prabhupada was such a good preacher. He came to America, and it's an affluent country. So many people, though, were joining. Thousands and thousands of people. You know, children of wealthy families were joining because Prabhupada had this desire to give Krishna. So Krishna fulfilled his desire. Just like on book distribution, sometimes the book distributor may have some strong desire to distribute books. Krishna sends people to take books, and it's actually quite mystical sometimes. How many people take books in a short time? It can be quite mystical. So Prabhupada is very mystical. Like Krishna, he's Yatra Yogeshvara Krishna, Yatra Partha, he's the master of all mystics. So when one connects to Krishna, one also becomes mystical, and amazing things happen. So Nārada Muni is very mystical. Here it mentions that that amongst the demigods he's the greatest amongst the demigods. Just like so many demigods that are also great devotees. Yamaraj, one of the Mahajans. Right? So many, Lord Shiva, so many great demigods. But Nārada Muni, he's known as the greatest. Prabhupada says in the purport also that he's the greatest devotee in the universe. Great Vaishnava. There's a nice verse that I appreciate so much by Nārada Muni. He says, Yavache hyadhainyam maitracha tayam etitad. That an intelligent person will cultivate utter humility with his mind, his body, and his words. And anything that gets in the way of that should be rejected. Humility is such an important quality. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains what is knowledge. And the first thing he mentions, humility. Humility is knowledge. Interesting. Knowledge of our insignificance. Yeah. Humility. Or there's this one person at the park, Ranger Z. He's actually a very nice person, and he said to me the other day, he said, I'm a nobody. And I showed him that quote in the Bhagavad Gita, how this is a symptom of knowledge, is that one has humility. I gave him a Bhagavad Gita. I said he deserved a Bhagavad Gita. So, and Srila Prabhupada says in the purport also that one should gain spiritual assets in one's life. He was preaching to one businessman. He said, every moment you think of Krishna, that's a gain. And every moment you're not thinking of Krishna, that's a loss. So he's a businessman. So they think about gain and loss, right? So that's a gain. Every moment we're thinking of Krishna, that's a gain. And every moment that we're not thinking of Krishna, that's a loss. And even it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam that that's the greatest anomaly, the greatest loss is to not think of Krishna for a moment. Moments are very important. So we're trying to think of Krishna as much as we can, so that we can get the mercy of Krishna. Now it's not easy to get the mercy of Krishna, to attain this bhakti, but it's said that there's certain nuts that take a long time to fructify. Macadamia, walnuts, coconuts, these take a long time to fructify. So things that are valuable, they take a long time to fructify. So we're trying to attain the most valuable thing, which is, yes, bhakti. So it's going to take some time. Yeah. Of course, we should endeavor to surrender as soon as we can. The devotee asked Prabhupada, how long does it take to surrender? Prabhupada said, a moment. It can take a moment if we're sincere. Bhakti Purusana Bhava Anyatra Chaisa Tuka Ekaka Prapadyamana Istasanastu Tusti Pusti Sunagayana Nigasa. That by rendering devotional service, three things automatically manifest. We attain bhakti. We get detachment and direct experience of Krishna. Simultaneously, these things happen by rendering sincere devotional service. And the example is given just like when we're eating, we experience pleasure, we get nourishment, and gradually satisfied. No more, please. So this bhakti is compared to the pleasure. We have some good cooks here. Some nice prasadam last night, wasn't it? Nice prasad. So you get some pleasure. And Prabhupada said, if you're not experiencing happiness in Krishna consciousness, you're doing something wrong. Because that's a natural byproduct of serving Krishna. You become happy. And devotees are giving up so much to serve Krishna, so there must be some happiness there. So give up, gambling, intoxication, meat eating, illicit sex. And these are the pillars of enjoyment. So people hear that we give these up, and they're, well, there's something wrong with this person. Yeah. But we see them engaging in these activities, and we know something's wrong with them. Because these are the activities of the animals: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So you get pleasure, you become detached. Like natural, if you get something better, then you give up. Just like when we were children, many of us here in America, we used to play. I don't know if anybody does it. We used to play marbles. Marbles was the thing when we were kids. You played marbles too, right? Yeah, that was the thing when we were kids, playing marbles. And I was pretty good, actually. I won all the marbles of the kids in the neighborhood, and then at one point I became detached and I threw them all away. Cars became the thing, little cars. Yeah. So then you give up the cars. You gradually give things up, and you go higher. Then you get a bike, and then you give up the bike, you get a car. So as you grow, then you get things, and you give them up, and you go higher and higher. So a devotee gives up the material world to achieve Krishna. Gives up the whole material world to achieve Krishna. The highest. Krishna is the highest. We don't want to become detached from Krishna. That's the highest. Once you achieve Krishna, no more detachment. We made it. We achieved the goal. And then we try to become very attached to Krishna. The problem is we're attached to things of this world. Like what is our mental home? What is it that keeps on coming back to our mind? Our mental home. So many things we don't want to come back, but they keep on coming back. Don't come back, get out. Don't come back anymore. Get out. Right? But we want Krishna to keep coming back. And therefore we chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Then we pray, Krishna, please come back. Please don't leave me. Don't leave me. Because the more we think of Krishna, as it's said here, the more we get purified. Here it said, therefore, my dear Lord, simply by seeing you has now wiped away all the contamination. It says, therefore, my dear Lord, seeing you has now wiped away all the contamination of sinful activities and the results of material attachment and lusty desires. So by seeing Krishna, by reading about Krishna, by chanting the names of Krishna, by associating with devotees that are connected to Krishna, in so many ways, the mind, the heart becomes purified. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagnao Brahmanahutam Brahmaivatena Gantavyam Brahmakarma Samadhina. Brahma is in there so much. So one who is engaged in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which that which is and whatever is accepted is absolute. So whatever we accept is Brahman, it's spiritual. We don't accept it, we don't absorb ourselves in anything. We only read books about Krishna. Although some devotees, anyway. So we only read books, we only read about Krishna. We only take Krishna prasadam. We only accept things in relation to Krishna. And we only give things in relation to Krishna. We give out nice prasadam. We give out books. We give out the holy name. So many things we're giving out to people. It's all Brahman, it's all spiritual. Whatever we accept is spiritual, whatever we give out is spiritual. In this way we become spiritualized, Krishnized by this absorption in taking Krishna and giving Krishna. And the best is to give Krishna, because Krishna is very pleased when we go out and give Krishna. And therefore it's nice. We have prasad distribution on Wednesday night. Go out to what is it? Which city? Which beach? Ocean Beach. It's nice. People appreciate it. And we go on Harinam. Tomorrow is a big Harinam. And we go out and we give books. So it's a giving. It's a giving society. We want to give. And the more we give, the more we receive. Krishna's pleased. Yeah. So, yeah, this is Krishna's mercy to give. So is there any question or comment? Okay. I'm sure you know the answer.
Because we hear so many verses, just chanting the name one time, you get rid of all your sinful reactions, if you can chant purely like that. And this is one of the few where it just says hearing one time, hearing one name can liberate even a pukasha, a chandala, low class, from samsara. Now, I always saw this verse as a great encouragement for going on Harinam, so people can hear. There's only those unfortunate persons who block their ears. There's always those. But like tomorrow, we used to go out Friday night every night downtown, where it's very crowded. Now we don't do that, and I was always enlivened by that because thousands of people coming by, some driving, walking, and they're all hearing the holy name, almost practically all of them. So. Is it really? And then you think, okay, they're liberated, but then the next thing they do, they turn into the bar and they have a steak and a beer, whatever.
Or sometimes while they're eating the steak or something, they're hearing.
They're hearing, yeah.
The steak is in their mouth and they're hearing.
So how do we understand that this liberates just hearing one holy name? Because it doesn't say has to be purely chanted. It just says hearing one holy name.
Well, that kind of goes without saying, that the quality of the hearing, the quality of the chanting has to be there. Just like we hear again and again that if we just by chanting the name of Krishna we get purified, right? Or that if we chant purely, then we guarantee we go back to Godhead. But the quality has to be there, and Prabhupada mentions that also when he says that in his books, that the quality has to be there. So the quality of the hearing, the quality of the chanting has to be there. It's not easy to have that. That's the challenge. The quality.
say, because, all right, so we're going out and chanting, so I have to work on my own purity so that I can chant purely, because it'll be more merciful people, and then actually be liberated.
Yeah.
So there's an extra inducement aside from your own going back to God. That can be more potent as a giver.
Right, like Prabhupada, he was so pure, he would chant, and it would have a big effect. People would hear Prabhupada chanting, and it would change people's hearts, because
on recording his lectures, and that first record, he was very eager to have that first record made, and it had a huge effect.
Oh yeah.
That Happening album, whatever it was, I mean,
just you could just feel
yeah.
You hear Prabhupada's chanting, it's just you just feel the purity. Yeah. So this is the nature of the pure devotee. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was his spiritual master. Anybody know the spiritual master of Nārada Muni? Krishna. Krishna is a direct disciple of Krishna. Yeah, it's in the books. So imagine having Krishna as your spiritual master. So that kind of, I'm sure that helped in his spiritual journey. But what's interesting is with Nārada Muni, also I wanted to mention that previous to his being Nārada Muni, he was just a 5-year-old boy with his mother, and she had invited some sages, some great saintly people there, and he was rendering service to them, very humble. The mother took them in, and he was doing humble service to them, and then he asked if he could have their remnants, and daily he was having their remnants, and by that he eventually became the great Nārada Muni. Dravida has something to say on that.
What it said there, he got the remnants, he was taking them, and it increased his desire to hear. He was hearing them also. By taking their remnants, he became purified and became more eager to hear, and then the purification took place.
Yeah. So it's said that there's 3 things that are very, very powerful in the material world. The remnants of the pure devotee, the water that has washed the feet of the pure devotee, and the dust from the feet of the pure. These are 3 very powerful things in the material world. It's funny that the first time Radhanath Swami saw Prabhupada, he went to go touch Prabhupada's feet, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj stopped him because Prabhupada instructed, don't anybody touch my feet. So then when he saw Radhanath Swami going to touch his feet and Tamal Krishna Maharaj stopped him, Prabhupada said, no, it's okay, let him, go ahead. So he got the mercy touching the feet of Prabhupada. Nectar. Anything else? Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, the word Ritvik has become a trigger word in ISKCON. And I think there's good arguments for both sides. The personal initiation and the Ritvik initiation. I think there's good evidence to support both sides. Just by our admission that knowing something to be wrong, we get higher karmic reaction is, in one sense, an admission that knowledge initiates us into a higher order. Similarly, we understand that Prabhupada is not different from his books. We just offered paraphernalia to Prabhupada Murti. So, we have to, my comment is that when somebody gives instruction, and this applies both to material and spiritual life, what does someone have to gain by what they say. If they don't say something, are they not saying something because they have something to lose? So the initiation, in-person initiation, there is a lot to gain in one sense through followers, or like you mentioned, Prabhupada became a multimillionaire, having many followers. Similarly, there are multimillionaire gurus in ISKCON with many disciples. So I see this happen again and again, where there are instances either in the material world or elsewhere, where people don't understand that there is a party that gains through events that happen. Somebody gains. Who gains? And we have to be streetwise to understand that. We have to understand who gains. Who gains in this situation? Am I being told this instruction because it's out of, benevolence, or is there something to gain from it?
Okay, good question. There was a devotee, book distributor, who said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, so many people are getting your books and they're appreciating, and they go to their homes and there's no devotees there. So what is their situation? They're reading your books, they like your books, they're practicing their devotional service. What is the situation if they leave their body? And Prabhupada said they can go back to Godhead because they've accepted me as their spiritual master. So you could say there's the Ritvik there. They didn't accept a spiritual master, but they accepted that Prabhupada, although there wasn't an official initiation, Prabhupada said they can go back to Godhead because they've accepted me and they're practicing. So there is that instance. But in general, as Krishna says, that one must approach a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service unto him. Self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you, for he has seen the truth. So in general, that's the statement. Otherwise, we could accept Nārada Muni as my spiritual master, or I could have Jiva Goswami as my spiritual master, or Rupa Goswami. You could just go on and on. So we can't be whimsical about that. Yeah. Devita, you have anything? Anybody else have anything to say?
Well, there are whole papers written about this.
Books.
There are large books written about it. And I think we dealt with this some classes a little while ago, where Krishna speaking to Uddhava in the Uddhava Gita.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole Ila Gita, where Pururava finally gives up on Urvasi, and he has this wonderful, amazing song of renunciation, very kind of radical. And then after that, Krishna gives this verse, that's a seminal verse that I think Balaram gave the class. Tato duk sangam utsrija satsu sajjeta buddhiman santa eva sechindanti mano vyāsangam muktibi. And what Krishna is saying there is, therefore, this Ila Gita proves, one should cast far away, kick out duk sangam, bad association, which includes human beings and any other association you have that is, keeping you attached to this world, and associate with satsu, with saints. Santa eva, the saints, Santa eva si chindanti mano vyāsangam uktibi. Because the saints can cut out, they're very deeply impacted material desires in your heart with their words, with their sharp words. Now one may say, okay, great, so we have Prabhupada's books, we have his recordings, that's what I need. But they're having that personal association. I remember there was this one story I heard about Govinda Maharaj. One of his disciples was there, maybe he told him some nonsense that he did, and he was berating him. He was getting on his case like anything about how, you know, you have to get rid of this attachment, whatever it was. I don't know what the story was. And he was taking it, you know. In other words, he was listening there humbly, and it seemed like a perfect illustration of this verse. So that personal relationship and that personal care, and that is invaluable, because otherwise it's too easy to close the book and go and do nonsense.
Yeah.
You know, it's too easy to turn off the tape. You need to have that personal, and Prabhupada insisted on it. That's why he took great risk there, you know, and he appointed, you know, the devotees to take up that role.
The personal touch is invaluable.
Yeah. And so that's why,
Another, I was just thinking about, when you mentioned that, about Indraduna Swami, when he first went to England with Prabhupada and Bhagavan, and they arrived in the airport, and Indraduna Swami, Indraduna Dasa at the time, he had to stay back. All the devotees went, because his Prabhupada's luggage was lost, so him and another devotee had to stay back and get the luggage. So they had to wait some time for it, and then they got back to the temple, and you know, all the prasadam is distributed, the class is over, everything, you know. So he's got this big bag. He's got to go up, you know, second or third floor, and he's lugging this bag up there, and he finally gets up to Prabhupada's room, and he puts it down, and he sees Prabhupada and pays obeisances, and he's tired and a little frustrated. He missed everything, and Prabhupada slapped him on the back and said something. And when Indradumna got up, he asked the devotee, what did Prabhupada say? He said, you just got the mercy of Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, in the material world, things are very difficult. But when you go back to the spiritual world, everything will be very easy. So it's like, wow.
I'd like to share this, because this is about Indradumna Maharaj. We had I don't think you were here yet, Yamunapati's daughter, and Parashakti's daughter, Gora, who grew up here. You know, when I moved here, she was like 3 years old, and she lived right next to me, and she grew up to be a very nice Vaishnavi lady. She went to school in England, I think, in the UK, made tons of friends everywhere. She went on the Polish tour. She hadn't taken initiation. You know, she was in her mid-20s, I think.
Now, was this the one that passed away?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so she took initiation from Indradumna Maharaj. She was so inspired by that Polish tour. You know, she was dancing, chanting. And so time passed, and she got married to one of our alumni here, Bhishma Dev.
Yeah.
You know, and I would go to Alachua twice a year. I'd see them there. They'd have lunch, you know, and everything. So she came down with a cancer. You know, it's tragic. So, you know, Yamuna went there, and Parashakti went there. I don't think Parashakti could stay. She had duties here. But Yamuna was there, and I would call several times, once a week, and I would read stuff, you know, to her and stuff like that. So then when she passed, and Yamuna gave, you know, he told us what happened. First of all, Indradumna would call her and spend hours with her on the phone. And she, you know, this is her Guru Dev, and, you know, giving her, you know,
personal touch.
Personal touch.
Yeah.
And the result was that, you know, Yamunapati described when she actually passed, she was completely peaceful. There wasn't a hint of panic or fear or anything like that. He said it felt like the Vaikuntha plane came and just took her back, and she stopped breathing. It was calm, you know. Now that, you know, that's one sign of that, and many other gurus, you know, give that are there, you know, at that time and before. So that's part of the story, the personal touch.
The loving personal touch, not just personal, loving personal touch. Okay? Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.